Joining me now, Democratic Congressman Mike Quigley. He's the co-chair of the Congressional Ukraine Caucus. Congressman, good to see you with us this morning. So as we look at what's happening on the ground there in Ukraine, despite these efforts and, signing this into law, as Putin did, majority of the world, of course, does not recognize this illegal annexation. But Putin has been clear. Any attacks on these areas will be considered an attack on Russia. How do you expect Putin to respond?
Well, I think you have to ask yourself what happened when there were attacks on Crimea. It gives you a little bit of hope that obviously he thinks Crimea is Russian territory. And when the Ukrainians attacked that wasn't the tripwire. But look, if you had told me during the first days of the war that would be here now, that the Ukrainian army would be advancing like this and the Russians withdrawing, I would have been thrilled, because this was a war we were certain would last days, not weeks. But I am very concerned with the other issues that are taking place at the same time. This isn't the end or the beginning of the end, but it's perhaps, as Churchill would have said, the end of the beginning.
So the end of the beginning, how long do you expect it to last then?
Look, let's list the concerns and why this would last long. There's still vast tracts of Ukrainian land that are under Russian occupation. And even a retreating Russian army, as we have seen in your report, is still dangerous, and they plan to do damage to infrastructure throughout Ukraine. Winter is coming, and that can slow progress and allow Russia to regroup. We've got to maintain Western unity. We've got to maintain Western stockpiles of weapons and continue to give them the weaponry and ammunition they need. That won't be easy. At the same time, to your other part of your report, we're beginning to see the acts of a desperate Putin, who's far more concerned with his ultra right-wing nationalists, the Slovakia. And that's why I think you see these acts that you're seeing, the sham elections, the nuclear threats, and the bungled mobilization.
So let's look at some of the other developments, right? As you put all of those concerns on the list there, Ukraine, as CNN has learned, is actually offering the U.S. oversight, essentially veto power, in its bid to convince the Biden administration that it needs some of these long-range missile systems. Do you think the U.S. should agree to that? Do you have any concerns about it?
I was with President Zelensky about a month ago in his defense ministry with the chairman of the House Armed Services Committee. You learn firsthand how the HIMARS were turning the course of this war. When we met with the members of the Rada, they told us that such weaponry is humanitarian aid. The only way to keep their people from being killed and the atrocities that Putin has completed through his army is through aid. So I would give them what they need to finish the job. As I stated at the beginning, this is far from over, unfortunately. I believe there will be a redoubled Russian effort to take these lands back. We need to give Ukraine the weapons they need.
You want to give them those weapons? I know you are also in favor of this fast-track bid when it comes to NATO. Speaker Pelosi stopping short of that. She talked about a support for a security guarantee. And Stoltenberg also somewhat lukewarm on that accelerated bid. Is this, in your view, coming down to Article 5? Are there genuine concerns, given that, as you assess the situation, this is maybe the end of the beginning, concerns about how long this could last, what it could mean in terms of direct involvement for NATO countries on the ground?
I mean, when I talked about the beginning, what I was referencing there is Putin's attempts to restore the Soviet Union, which would have meant going after NATO countries. I think the Baltics, Poland, Moldova were all fair game. So I think that's why they should care so much. And I also think that Ukraine has earned this, right? They've earned this. Their role is why we formed NATO in the first place. But it's part of a larger question. What do we consider victory? That's clearly making Ukraine whole through land and rebuilding it, holding those accountable for the atrocities and this war in the first place, and making them secure. So what I imagine would be the best case scenario is they win this war and Russia is forced off its land, and then we make them part of NATO so that we know that they're secure, and that's the foothold Russia wanted to go after the rest of NATO.
Congressman Mike Quigley, appreciate you joining us today. Thank you.